Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. And thank you so much for joining us once again this Tuesday. And welcome once again to our innovation boot camps, where we are going through the whole cycle of being able to build a good business model, meet investors and learn the criteria that investors use to get an investor. So we've had two great webinars where we've looked at how to build a good business model. Last week we had a great session where we spoke to two investors who shared their experiences in terms of what investors are looking for. And I think it's to do with how scaling came up, and how to mitigate risk, and also being investable, being a good, a likable person who is investable. Today, we are here to learn once again, and we're joined by Mr. John Bukutu, who has just introduced himself all the way from Eswatini, and we are joined by Professor Bradley Googins all the way from Boston. So I welcome you, our speakers. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Okay, I guess I will begin then. Good afternoon.
So before we begin, I just wanted to introduce to some of us, maybe who have joined us today, who is E4Impact and why are we here today? We are very excited to show you how our family has grown, and I will share a presentation and then we jump straight into our chat today on how to pitch. So just sharing a presentation with you. There we go. Right. I hope everyone can see that very clearly. So I just want to welcome those who are joining us for today and introduce E4Impact Foundation. We are currently in 17 African countries at the moment, and our vision is to build the largest Pan-African alliance of universities that are focusing on training impact entrepreneurs and build communities that we're working with by creating entrepreneurs that build organizations that create jobs. So we are very passionate about building the SDGs to no poverty, quality education. Through quality education, we have programs, an MBA in entrepreneurship with a global MBA in entrepreneurship, and an international entrepreneurship certificate, which we've partnered with our different partners in our alliance. So E4Impact Foundation is a spin-off of Università Cattolica del Sacro Cuore di Milano, which is dedicated to impact entrepreneurship. We are passionate about collaborations and sharing knowledge through partnerships with universities. And today we are particularly interested in sharing contact details at the end of the 6 new partnerships we've just signed off with 6 countries. And here in Africa and in Middle East, we are building programs through our accelerators across Africa, and we are able to come in touch with entrepreneurs that are at idea stage, that are at startup stage, and are at growth stage. So all our programs are able to accommodate you and be able to build from where you are and accelerate you. The advantages of joining us are the fact that we are passionate about investing, creating an ecosystem that is very holistic, where we have all players in the space. We have the entrepreneurs, we have the educators, the experts, we have the investors as well. So 2.5 million has exchanged hands since we have started our initiatives. Our alumni is growing strongly. Like I always say, we've celebrated graduations in the last 2-3 months across 7 countries, where we've had our first editions and third and fourth editions graduating. We have created about 80% client base through our alumni. and sealed partnerships after the MBA, as we encourage our alumni to share information, partner in terms of expertise, in terms of their businesses, and increase their turnover by increasing their market share across all the countries that we're in. We're very passionate about entrepreneurs, and therefore our programs have a very flexible schedule, acknowledging that we need to be able to impart knowledge and allow the entrepreneurs to go and implement and action what they've learned. So we have presence and distance learning, online education programs running through our MBA and our certificate programs. We are passionate about creating entrepreneurs that have an international reach. Coaching and mentoring is one way that we practice the practical aspect, where we have one-on-one sessions with our entrepreneurs, allowing them to focus on growing strong financial models. We encourage people to grow in a balanced manner through mentoring and speaking to people who have made it, to motivate, inspire them, and guide them, and help them not make expensive mistakes. We encourage our partners to build a local group of partners to work with, that is the mentors, the coaches, the professionals, the experts in each country, to be able to support our programs. Access to investors. Last week we had a wonderful session with 2 investors, one who was very local here on the continent, and one who was from Italy, who was joining us from a VC in Italy. So we're very passionate, of course, to create also platforms where you're able to network. We have a 2-week business summit in Italy every year, where our alumni and our existing students are able to go over and experience Milan and experience talking to business people there and sharing their businesses and also trading. So come through and be part of our programs. We're also very passionate responding to the SDGs to support women. And we have achieved 33% of women trained in our programs and 8.160 jobs created for women. Youth are also an area that we want to build a strong youth and create jobs for the future. So those are some of the impact entrepreneurship programs and their benefits. We want you, if you are in Ethiopia, to contact Mikedela. If you are in Rwanda, Benjamin; in Swatini, Sandile; in Ghana, Andrews; in Egypt, Farida; and in South Africa, Unene. Please go to all our social media platforms. You get our contact details of the other countries where we are in, or else just go to our chat box, and if you want to know the contact person in the country that you are in, we can share on the chat box. We're excited to immediately get into our session today. And before we get in there, I want to emphasize that we would want to hold a pitch event in the next 2 weeks, where we are able to meet some entrepreneurs, some impact entrepreneurs that would want to join our programs, and also be able to pitch their ideas to investors who are keen to invest. So we do have a pitch event that's going to come. We've learned how to build a business model. We have learned what investors are looking for. And today, John and Prof. Brad will teach us how to pitch to investors. And we will have, we will put this into action. As we said, we're impact, we're action orientated, and we'll present our skills that we've learned in a pitch event in the next. So please take note that you will receive, those who are interested can respond to our emails that we've been sending to you, and you will get an email to tell you the next steps. Right, great. Prof. Googins, are you ready to share some nuggets?
Yes, I am.
Great. If you have any questions, please put it in the chat box, and we'll respond to them soon after the presentations and as we go along. Over to you.
Thank you so much, brother. And good afternoon, good evening, good morning, where I am, just about noontime here in the United States in Boston. and delighted to be with you. I'm going to screen share in a minute, one little slide, and then John and I will take some turns making some observations. But let me just begin by saying, I think the reason that I'm so excited about this program and so excited about entrepreneurism is that it's such a big challenge. Most small businesses, whether you're in the United States or whether you're in Africa, don't make it beyond 4 or 5 years, 3 years, 2 years even. And of course, we're trying to make sure through the E4Impact program that we increase the odds of your being able to make it. And so when I think of today, what I want to talk about today, see if I can find my screen share here for a minute. All right, hold on. Sometimes I have a hard time finding these.
Right at the bottom there in green, it should be popping up.
No, I have that. I'm looking for my,
okay.
I have too many things, I guess, on my screen here. All right. Oh, here it is. Okay, got it. See that?
Yes.
Okay. So I've done I've been involved, maybe getting on 10 years now. We've had so many pitches. I'm learning so much. I love to listen to investors and what they're looking for. But I begin this by saying that I'm increasingly so impressed by entrepreneurs, for those of you who are entering this field or those of you who are in this field, and the set of skills that it takes. So, for example, we spend a lot of time on helping someone design the way a designer would their business idea into a plan, and then we get to the stage where we want to pitch it. So we have designing skills that you need. Then you have to convert that into a plan, which is one that you can implement to take it beyond an idea. And the third role I think of is what we're going to talk about today, which is a performer. So I could have a great business idea, but if I can't communicate that, if I can't attract customers, if I can't attract employees, if I can't attract investors, it's really not going to succeed very well. So when you get to the stage where you're ready to pitch, you really are a performer. I learned that early on when I was teaching, that you're really a performer. You're trying to communicate something to somebody else. And so pitching is that art and skill. And you can improve so much by the more you pitch, the more you become successful. Almost all the entrepreneurs I know will have pitched hundreds of times, sometimes to investors, sometimes to contests, business plan competitions, sometimes to customers, etc. So I'm just going to share with you, and John and I will do this, in terms of what we've learned and what we've seen. So let me just quickly get through some of these ideas, and I'll turn it over to John. So first thing I would tell you is money chases good ideas. So many entrepreneurs are concerned about, how do I attract capital? How do I attract funding for my ideas? And of course, there's a lot we could talk about here, because there are different stages of this. In the early stages, people pitch because they are now beyond the first stage of their funding. They've invested themselves, they might have friends and family. So this is a sort of an outside pitch, an outside attempt to try and convince the investor, whoever that might be, that I have a really good, solid idea. And when we survey, entrepreneurs around the world, we ask, what's the biggest problem you have? And they would say attracting capital. And again, doesn't make any difference whether you're in the United States or whether you're in Africa. It's the same, attracting capital. The one thing that I've known for years and years and years is that it's not just the idea or the business opportunity that you're presenting. They're looking for something deeper. If I'm going to invest my money as an investor, I'm investing in you. I'm investing in the entrepreneur. Of course, I need to think you have a great idea. Of course, I think I want to be able to scale this up with you, etc. But ultimately, I'm looking at you. I'm looking at your passion. because without passion, if there's no passion around this, I'm very unlikely to invest, because you need the passion of what you're trying to do in order to get through the hard times that always come to entrepreneurs, because that's how they learn, through mistakes and through failures, etc. And I'm looking for the discipline. Does the person have what it takes to take this idea to a business? A lot of entrepreneurs have a good idea, but you're building a business. And in order to build a business, there's so many aspects of this that you need to build. And one of them, really has to do with, do you have the discipline to really work through this? And all of you know, I'm sure, how hard you have to work to be successful at this. So money chases passion, money chases discipline, money's chasing you. So it comes back to, who am I? What do I want you to know about the issue? So when I'm pitching to someone, I want them to know me, first of all. So sometimes we begin with a story, sometimes we begin with a problem that exists or whatever, but I want them to feel the passion. So there's an emotional part of this, but also I want to know, what am I focused on? What is the issue? Do I have a clear issue? What led me to this? So that's why I say, what's your story? What's your story? You're telling a story of an idea that you've been able to take and form and design and shape into a business, and now you want to take this business to market. Here's my story. Here's my story of how I got here, or here's my story about why I'm so passionate about this. Here's my story about what a huge opportunity there is. And again, with impact entrepreneurism, one of the things that we're so interested is that behind, as Peter Drucker, the management guru, said, behind every global social and environmental issue is a business opportunity in disguise. So you're really looking for the bigger the problem, the bigger the opportunity. And as an investor, I'm looking for a scalable business. I'm looking for as big an opportunity as you can tell me. What's the market segment that is potentially interested in this? So as I'm pitching this, I'm thinking of different aspects depending on what my business is. In some businesses, I want you to really understand the pain that exists out there, the need that some groups, we call them customer segments, market segments, are experiencing, and that what I'm going to be able to do will help them resolve that pain. In other examples, it's the gain. Bobby A. in Ghana brought a very interesting business idea that he formed, and it was quite successful in attracting quite a bit of capital over fertilizer, a gain that farmers using an organic fertilizer that would be good not just for getting rid of bugs, but also for the earth, for the soil itself, could double the productivity. So what's the gain that they might do? What's the opportunity? So I'm trying to be clear on that. And of course, at the center of the whole pitch is your value proposition. What value are you bringing to whom? What's unique and different from everything else that exists out there? It doesn't mean that I invented something new. Sometimes I see something that takes place in Ethiopia that I had never seen before, and I bring that down to Zimbabwe. All right. Well, that's, again, you have a value proposition of bringing something of value to a customer who's willing to pay for this or willing to engage in this. Now, when you go to your value proposition, again, the investor is looking for what is unique about this. And so, again, I have to be sure that you understand the market, you understand who your competitors are, and you have to be able to articulate, communicate what are the one or two or three things that constitute the value of your business. For some people, that it's a faster delivery. For other people, it may be around how you pay for this, right? So I'm going to eliminate an obstacle by creating a unique payment system. For others, and for many, it has to do with the uniqueness of the product itself or the service itself, that it's something that we're bringing that we've never been before. I use an example sometimes of in Thailand of a bamboo school, it's called, and it's a very unique form very different form of education that comes out of with a very different set of values about creating citizens and getting people involved, these students involved very early on. So how do I communicate that to the to the investor? Now, just so I don't forget, one of the things that you've got to remember that when you pitch, you don't have, I mean, if I was pitching to you today, this might be all the time I'd have to leave now. I mean, maybe you might have 5 minutes. So once in a while, they'll give a 10-minute pitch. But basically, the idea of a pitch is you're trying to get me, the investor, interested enough to get to the next stage. I don't need a lot of details. I'll get to that later when I sit down with you and when I go look at your financial plan, when I look at your business plan. Right now, I'm trying to think, I'm looking at you as a potential partner in my investment, and I'm looking at your business idea, particularly your value proposition, your uniqueness, etc. So all these things are going on in the mind of the investor as they begin to listen and hear what you're doing. So you're trying to craft some type of a pitch that can do this quickly, but why I always call it a story, that engages me, that interests me. I don't want you putting me to sleep with, statistics, etc. I want you to engage me with either the size of the opportunity, the size of the customer segment, or the uniqueness of this that doesn't exist. So who do I see as that specific customer segment? Have you gone out and done the type of homework that you need so that you really understand what this customer segment, who it is, what it's looking for, why it would be willing to come with you versus competition, etc. And then what's my business model that will take this? Do you have a business model? There's a difference between having a business idea and having a business plan. In order to get a plan, I have to design a model, and then from the model, build that into the plan. That's of course, our whole E4Impact curriculum moves us along the lines of doing that. We start with the idea or the business that you have right now, and then we try and design a plan that will get you to where you want to go. So that's what the investor is looking for. Do you have a plan, or do you just have a good business, an idea? And we're looking for you to build a business. So that's the business model, etc. What are the major activities and processes? And as I mentioned, I want to make sure you understand where you are in the market. Do you know what your competition is? And can you tell me why you think you can succeed in the market given this competition? Right? Now, most of you, like me, are just one person or one small focus. I can't. Sometimes some of us are very strong on the idea and less on the implementation. Some of us are very strong on the technology. Some of us are very strong on communication. So the other part that becomes important, so I want to introduce you very briefly to my team. Who have I brought together to make sure that I can take this to market, that I can, what my strengths are, and I've gone out and found the finance people that are going to help me move that, because that's not my particularly strength area or whatever. So again, wanting to know a little bit about that. And the social impact, tell me how this will change the world. Most entrepreneurs are not of all the entrepreneurs are not in business simply to make money. That's not enough of a passion really to carry it through. Steve Jobs said, "I'm here. I believe my products will change the world." So if I have an ability to create a business, make a profit, and change the world, now I've got a really strong value proposition there. And then finally, the whole notion of financials and revenue streams. Business, the language of business is basically in the finances. It's basically in the numbers. And so we emphasize, and I think all of you are going to have to make sure you understand the world, the financial model of a business, understand break-even points and understand, issues of profit and loss and cash flow. All of those become a language for you to communicate with the investors, because that's how they're trying to determine that. And then lastly, you're going to pitch your investment itself. What are you looking for? And what are you looking from them? Are you looking for some equity, that they would get some equity in your company? Are you just looking for a loan? You're looking just for a grant, depending on if you're a nonprofit, et cetera. So again, you can see the complexity of these issues. It's exciting, it's challenging, but most of all, we want you to be prepared. We want you to be prepared in terms of being able to pitch a solid business, because as an investor, I've got a lot of opportunities. There are a lot of people trying to pitch for my money, basically. And so I want to make sure you can compete as thoroughly as you can. And it all starts with, do you have a compelling story? And can you embed yourself? Can people see your passion? Can they see your commitment? Can they see the discipline that you're going to bring to that, so that they'll be in this for the long run? So with that, let me hand this over to you, John, and maybe you could sort of add your perspective on that.
Thank you very much, Prof. And quite a detailed presentation there. Thank you very much. I'm trying to see if I can, I'm being told I cannot share. Oh, okay. Let me see now. Are you still sharing yours? Okay.
No, it shouldn't be.
Okay. Okay, let me try. Okay, so thank you very much, Prof. So mine, I just did the scribbling on PowerPoint, really. What I like us to do is just to have a general discussion. I come more on the side of the person that does the pitching more than on the investor. So I'm happy, Bradley, that you've got the experience as the investor. I have more of the experience as the person that has done a number of these pitching. As you may know, in Africa, the VC, venture capital, and private equity is a growing market. It's not yet at the levels that we have in Europe, in America, in other places, Asia, but it is starting to grow. We're starting to have pension funds. For example, here in Eswatini, there is a law that says that it started by saying 30% of all the premiums that pension funds collect have to be invested within the country. And slowly it's being raised to about 50%. And I think the idea is to say maybe up to 80, 100% of the premiums that, so you're starting to have a whole lot of pension funds that have got funds that are looking for ideas. So we have a situation now where we have investors that are in the form of institutional investors that are trying to look now for projects that are fundable, projects that are economic. I'll give you an example where we, for the past 3 years, we are in the process of raising about 111 million rands, which is roughly about $5 million, to build up student accommodation for our university. We've spoken to everybody and to as many interesting people, and we got to a point where now we are about 3 or so potential investors that then start now to bid, and we have to look at it and say, who do we go with? We have some that are saying, what are the subsequent beyond this? Because some, when we started, it was too small for them. The others were quite interested, but especially on the bank side. But then COVID and all these other changes that came into play made them start to maybe pull back a little bit. But we have interesting investors that are saying, okay, how do we look beyond this? So pretty much most of the ideas around pitching, I'm trying to see how do I get to, okay. All right. So the investor wants to know, what do you understand the problem? Just like Bradley said, to understand the problem, present what is the market status as you see it. For example, I wish it was more interactive, but Uber, for example, what was the problem identified by these guys? They said it was a pain getting a taxi in any place. And all of us who have taken a taxi, especially the old taxi, we can explain that. We can attend to that, say, look, it has always been a problem getting, you have to either hail it down or walk to some place. But now they say, no, what if we can actually bring the taxi to where you are, exactly where you are, you don't have to walk to some place. Before you could call maybe, but again, there were a lot of pain points that they say they need to be able to do that. So what is the solution? What solution you, your company or product intends to give to this problem? The idea here is to concentrate mainly on the benefits of your product rather than the features of the product itself. Remember, like my co-presenter said, there are others that are sometimes that may have the things that you already have. But what is the difference now? Is it maybe a new technology that you have come up with? Is it an easier way? For example, we had taxis before, we had transport before, but Uber is saying, my solution is I'm making it more painless. I'm making it more affordable. I'm making it easier for you. Airbnb, for example, would say, I'm making it easier for you to be in a home environment. I'm making it easier for you to learn the cultures of the city within where you are getting into for your stay. So you can now even share and exchange the cultures that you couldn't do in a more bigger, impersonal environment like a hotel. Then you have what's your product, basically? Are you able to explain what the product is? Here, I raised a point that you have to be very careful around, if it's a physical product, be very careful taking a physical product to the demonstration, because it might malfunction. You may have some issues there. So probably a good video that has been captured nicely explaining what the product, if it's a physical product or a service, would be very important. And again, this is where your designers will come in. And I hope you won't pitch with the kind of demonstration that I'm having, which is a scribble basically when you look at it. All right. What is the market size? How large can your company become? All right. There is a calculation around top-down market. We're looking at the total market and the percentage that your company could be, or the bottom up, the sales that you can do, and also at the end of the day, what would be your market share there? Investors want to know that, because remember, at the end of the day, they are putting their money to make money. The business model, Bradley spent a lot of time on that, but I will talk a bit about the revenue model. How is your business going to generate the revenue? Basically, stress on the products and the services. This, at the end of the day, if you're not done properly, can make or break your pitch. I know I have had many times that, of course, in our case, you are asked many times to come back again and probably do another pitch. And you are lucky if you get that, because that means probably the investors like what you're doing. But some examples of revenue models could be maybe a 10% or commission-based rather. Say for every transaction, you take a 10%. Is this subscription-based? People want to pay a subscription. A number of, I think, apps that we have, people pay subscription. That's how you get your revenue. Is it revenue sharing? Is it licensing? Is it commerce and retail? This is your brick and mortar. Is it advertising, like your pay-per-click, pay-per-view? Is it freemium? Freemiums is basically where you give the basic version of your product for free, and then charge for the premium as you add more. As I start to probably an app, for example, as I realize that I can get more things, then I can sign up for the premium, and then it starts to charge me there. There are many others. Again, I thought it was a more for like a discussion where everybody comes in. That's where we're going to ask who else can come up with other revenue models there. Then you have your competition. Do you understand who your competitors are? How are they your competitors? I gave an example there of Airbnb and Hotel.com. In my case, we have a number of institutions that are operating in Swaziland. What is our value proposition that will be different from what they are offering? So what's your underlying magic, as it were? Why should we even listen to you? What is your competitive advantage? Maybe you have created or developed new or better technologies that the other people don't have. Are there any particular pain point that you have seen that all the other providers are failing to solve? And you come in and say, yes, this is where I want to solve. For example, the example of Uber again, to say, hailing for a taxi, finding a taxi, maybe walking in the rain to where the taxis are ranked. Now, in this case, you can actually call the taxi, comes and picks you exactly where you are. You have solved a pain point for the client there. I'm just trying to get further down. So what's your go-to-market plan? How are you going to acquire a massive audience? Maybe you're looking at events. In Eswatini here, we've got a number of cultural events that take place that bring in hundreds of thousands of people together. Maybe those are some of the things that you are looking at. You may look at partnership. For example, in our case as Amadi, we've partnered with the Catholic University of Milan. We've partnered with the Malaysian University of Science and Technology. We've partnered with the Global Research Center in South Africa. So this is expanding, as it were, our reach as an institution. So you need to show this to your investors. They know that you are not just sitting, but you're growing the market, as it were. The team, this should be limited only to the actual founders. Don't bring the advisors and all the other people, only the actual founders. I've seen this, it has been very painful for me because all the pitches and all the development looking for funds that we've been doing all the time, I have to go there and talk and explain this story, like Bradley said, over and over and over again, because people want to know, why did you even think of this idea? How do you see it going forward? So it's very important that the actual founders, the team itself is there, who is strong, your CTO, for example, if it's a technology company, who is going to lead the CEO, for example, at your finance. People want to understand that. There's this person that understands finance and financial management. And again, at the end of the day, sell yourself. Why are you the best to grow the company? Shouldn't the investors say, we like the idea, we like everything, but we don't like you? It can happen. And they fire you almost immediately. All right. So those are some of the things that you need to look at. They can like your idea, but they don't like you. And you end up in a situation where you get kicked out of your own company. It has happened many times. Traction, what are the milestones? What have you done so far? Have you done any sales? Do you have any revenue? Is it growing? Can you show that the users, if you don't have, for example, revenue, you can show that, look, this app or this service, we've got a number of people that we've tried to, we already 1,000 people have registered, we have a few people that are coming in, or how many people are coming in every month. So it's very important to show that there is something, there is traction. Investors want to see what you have put on the table, want to see that this is not just an idea. Ideas are very interesting. Everybody has ideas, but very few investors will just put money in an idea without something that you have actually done on that. Fundraising information, what are you looking for? How much are you looking for? And what do you want to do with that money? All right. I don't think investors will be happy for you to get $500,000 and you take $120,000 and buy a Range Rover for yourself because you're a CEO. All right, that's not going to help yourself if you're telling investors that because I'm a CEO now, I need a good car, so I'll take 500,000 and put that. Is it for marketing? Is it for scaling? Is it for research and development? Is it to launch? Is it to go to another market? So how much exactly are you looking for and what do you want to do with it? All right, so in conclusion, there's something that we call grandma test or your niece or nephew test. What is your product? Can you talk to your grandma or your nephew with 6 years and say, what exactly is the product and what the service? Who does your product help? What does it do and why it might make money? This is the pitch at the end of the day. So what is the product? Who does it help? What it does? Why it might make money? Thank you very much, Abetha. I think that's what I had on that.
Wow, thank you very much to you, Prof. Googins. Prof. Googins is with E4Impact, and he is our go-to guru when it comes to business model strategy. He takes our boot camps and goes through a 2-week program online or a 1 week in presence, and breaks it down and gets to meet the entrepreneurs and build, help them break down their visions and value propositions and help them build strong. So he's a professor, a senior professor, a strategy professor with E4Impact, and is senior fellow with the Institute of Social Innovation, Babson College, and his primary focus is social entrepreneurship and innovation. So we're very glad to have him in the family. And we are also very grateful. Thank you so much to Mr. Bukutu for explaining it from the pitcher's point of view and sharing your experiences. So thank you very much. Let's have a look if we have any questions in our, please, if you have any question that you'd like to put forward and have your issues or concerns addressed, please take this opportunity to come through with your questions in the chat room, and they will be free. We'll use the last 15 minutes of the webinar to answer questions. So I'll kick off with questions. I know there are 3 types of pitches. When do you apply? You've got the elevator pitch, which is usually advisably 1 minute. That's if no one is stopping at any other floor. You bump into an investor in the elevator. There is the short form pitch. There is the long form pitch. Just tell us how to get there, how to apply those 3 types of pitches.
I like John's grandma pitch. I thought that was that's a really good one, because I think that is the most basic. Can you, in a very quick minute, explain to someone who knows nothing about your project? And I think that's the most important one, because, you know, we might be spending a year really digging in and building this business, etc. But I forget what I've learned. I forget that other people don't know anything about it. So I think what John was saying is very, very important, that you have to be able to pitch something very quickly, for sure, with investors. If you're lucky enough to get an appointment with an investor, that's precious moments. So you got to really think through this. You've got to plan it. It's almost like a script for a play or a movie. You know, you want to try and do it. But I don't know, John, any other thoughts on that?
What I can say is that when it comes to all these pitches, practice is very important, and doing it over and over and over again. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes at the beginning. You are also going to make mistakes even when you think you're a veteran at these things. So, and also the environment within which you are in is very, very important. But at the end of the day, there are basic few things that you know. If I say this, if I bring this out, everybody will understand what the product or the service is, and how it works and how it impacts on people and how it helps, and also why I think that I should be getting funding for it.
Great. So our first.
I just saw. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Yes, our first question is, what should be the maximum number of slides when pitching? What should be the maximum number of slides?
Yeah, that's always a good one, because you know, oftentimes when people would come to my class, let's say, I invite someone in, they'd say, well, I just have a few things to say. It won't take long. Those are the ones that take the longest because you can't imagine. I mean, there's a whole science, really, or art of designing a slide. You know, few words better, pictures better than words, etc. And we spend a lot of time trying to go over this. But I would say you'd be surprised if I have 4 or 5 slides. That's about all. If I have 5 minutes, that's about all I'm going to have time for. So I know I need to convince you and move fast through this, but I know I have to have some financial slides. I have to have some slides that talk about, as John was saying, is how this business operates, how it makes money. I've got to have something about a customer. I've got to have something about the value proposition. So if you come with 20 slides or 10, 15 slides, that's deadly. You're really, the fewer the better. I had a student one time who had a real hard time presenting, and ironically, the electricity went out and they had to present without any slides, and they did the best job they ever did because they were too overlying. But yeah, again, I just want to reemphasize, pitching is a skill set. It's as important as you're learning how to, create a balance sheet. It's something that, as John said, you can practice over and over and over again. You'll get better. It's like public speaking is the number one fear that people have across the globe. Getting up and being able to pitch something and get comfortable with who you are. And I've seen with our students and our graduates, the more they do it, wow, it becomes second nature to them. And then the real person comes out. And again, don't try and present everything you know about your business. No, you'll do that later. That's when another stage of pitching, when you're sitting down with the investor in their office and now they're interested, you've hooked them, they think there's some value, then they'll ask you a million different questions and hopefully you'll be able to answer those. But that initial pitch is really what's so important.
Great.
Yeah, just to add to that, really, the important thing is to get their interest, hook them in. Like Prof just said now, hook them in. The details and all the other things, believe me, when they're interested, they'll ask you everything, everything. They will get to the details. They will dig. You can't lie at the end of the day. They will find out some of the things. But the important thing at the pitch is to say you are in. All right, when you are in, then this is where they say, okay, let's play golf. If you're a golf person, we want to play golf with you. Let's talk. Or meet us at this function, or let's do this. This is now where, but the pitch is to get in. So the minimum, the best, the better.
Great. So I think I picked 5 slides. 5 slides. Yeah, 5, 7 slides, and a minute to a slide.
Yeah.
So because sometimes you might have even 3 to 5 minutes to be able to hook them in, as John is saying. Thank you. Right. You have mentioned that most of the startups struggle to pass year 5, and it's true from my experience. What is the secret to survive the first 5 years?
Wow, many secrets, I guess. A lot of luck. No, for me, I really think it's being able to be resilient and understand that failure is something that you will embrace, that you learn. Our own program for E4Impact, it took us 3 or 4 years with a fairly heavy investment before we even got to the model that you know of today in E4Impact. And I think that's true of a lot of businesses, that you go through a real learning process. You know, that's one of the things you learn coming out of school anyways, that once you are in the real world, you start learning. And it's the people who are able to adapt and pivot, the people that are paying attention to the customer and listening carefully to say, wow, actually, I think there's a better opportunity than even the one I have, are the ones that, very carefully keep assessing what's working, what's not working. Keep their eye on how things are changing. Imagine if you had started a business, a restaurant, a year and a half ago, and along comes COVID, right? What are you going to do? Well, a good entrepreneur doesn't just give up. They say, okay, I've got to go to more takeout, or I've got to go to a different model of that. And so you pivot and say, but that's what a good entrepreneur does. They sort of understand how to pivot, how to be resilient, and how to listen, and how to, engage the customer. I mean, it's all the different things. It's why we say when we use a business model canvas, of which, like the 10 or 11 critical components, from revenue streams to costs or whatever it might be, value proposition, you've got to balance all of these. And just as the McDonald's hamburger chain says, we have a, we're looking at a saying that this thing would happen, this mistake might happen once in a million. Well, we have 17 million every day customers. So we're going to have 17, unanticipated events that happen, and we have to be prepared to deal with them. John?
Great. All right. Well, for me, one word, grit. You keep at it, basically. The word grit, G-R-I-T, grit. Keep at it. You fall, you rise, you continue at it. Like Prof is saying, E4Impact, our program, Amadi here, those that know where we started and where we are. Amadi started in a shared office where our partner were sharing the office and were selling cleaning chemicals, basically. But now we've got our own structures, we've got land, we've got real estate, so you keep at it. Just like when you get into adulthood, the moment you become an adult from teenager, you become an adult, you just know that things have just changed and it's not going to be the same. You cannot cry that you're hungry. Nobody's going to listen to you. You have to do something about it. So keeping at it, at the end of the day, will see you through. Obviously, look for partnerships, look for how to make it easier. The digital. I think now there are more tools that we can actually use. Network. I can give an example. Some of the people that I see here, I posted the poster that you created with about an hour before we started, and I think I can say about 4 or 5 people that are here came through because of that. Just that. So there are a lot of easier ways that probably one doing business today would find, but keeping at it is probably the best. Yeah.
Okay. If you're someone with just an idea and nothing much has been done on the ground, can that idea be taken up with investors, or you wait to have something on the ground?
Investors, at the end of the day, they want to monetize. I'm not sure the experience. Like I said, I come from the pitcher rather than the investor side.
So maybe the question would be, how do I make my idea really hook the investor?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Can you convince me as an investor that your investor can be monetized, and how can it be monetized? Mm-hmm. I'm not sure about what you said.
Where is the money? Show me where the money is in the idea.
Where the money? How can we monetize it? Can we monetize it?
Brad, you're on mute, Brad. Yes.
I do think that, yeah, you're absolutely right. One of the things we talk a lot about is for an entrepreneur is a proof of concept. So you have an idea, but the more you can talk to me about the fact that it actually works, I did a trial, and I had 5 people, and this is what happens, right? So think of the person who's discovering a new vaccine, right? They go out and they try a small group of people, and they say, okay, it looks like it's going to work. Now we can scale it up. Most of us, we all start off with an idea. The question is, how rapidly can we bring that onto the market? So sometimes ideas are so powerful, it makes so much sense, not too often, but so much sense that we'll go ahead before you even prove the concept. But most people want you to prove the concept. So again, I look at a number of factors. Has this person been in the business? So we have a lot of students, for example, that might come out of a bank, and they say, I've been working at a bank for 10 years, and I noticed that there's a whole customer segment or a whole group of people that are not bankable, or that are not being, their needs are not being met. And so my business is based on that. So, or I have a lot of data that, 40% of the people who are homeless are looking for X or whatever. And so you're always trying to marshal as much data as you can, because if all you have is an idea, it's an idea. There are thousands of people that have ideas around the world. And I have to make a judgment as an investor. Am I ready to invest? It would be a lot easier if you could begin to show me that you've got it done. It's why banks are really the worst place to go generally for an investment in the early stages because they're very risk aversive. They're not going to take a chance. Other investors understand that they're going to take a risk, but there's a high reward when they take a risk. Remember, investors are like you. They might invest in 10 companies, and only one is really going to make the big sale that they are hoping for. But they understand that. They understand I can't just make the perfect sale every single time, and same with you. So don't be too discouraged about your idea, but try and get this proof of concept as quickly or as best you can using a beta site, an experiment, using a trial and error. There's nothing like success to be able to convince. That's what we say about customers, right? The best customer is the one you already have, and that's there's a reason for that. Yeah.
Yes. I guess that can link into the next question. Favor is thanking you for amazing presentations, both of you. And he would like to basically know how to increase your chances when your business is still idea stage, meaning it has no financial records yet. So if I'm to rephrase it, how best can he present his financial records that could hook an investor at idea stage? What can he show? What can he physically show in that slide?
Yeah, you have absolutely, if I'm the investor, obviously I know you haven't even started the business. You have no, profits. You have no sales even, right? But what I can do is I can look at what you're projecting. So see, remember, when we talk about a business model, not a business plan, we're talking about making hypotheses about who the customer is, making hypotheses about what the costs are going to be, making hypotheses about how I'm going to get revenue. So as an investor, what I'm looking for is I'm looking for your financial projections. So here's what we think we can make next year. Now it might be based on the projections you make, and I have to see how realistic those are, because what I'm going to be testing is, have you really factored in the full cost of what it's going to take? Do you know basically how much it's going to cost? I mean, some nitty gritty things. How much is your customer acquisition cost? What is it going to cost you? And what are you going to spend on getting one customer? So I'm really looking not for answers. I'm really trying to look at how you have approached the problem, how thorough you are. The reason you're coming for an investor is not just for money. You're coming so I can help you build this business. I've got a lot of experience in this. I've got networks I can help tie you into, etc. But what I'm looking for is how you have approached this, how thorough it is, and even if you've made mistakes or whatever, we would expect that. But I can't. If I don't have revenue, I don't have revenue, and that's all right. People don't. Yeah. People understand. That's where you are. Yeah.
Yes, and maybe I can link that into the next question to do with financial projections again. And it's saying, including financial projections in a pitch really is really necessary, given the dynamism and the unpredictability of the future of all economies across the world. So how do I make these financial projections reveal or envision them to the investor that they can overcome the unpredictable and uncertain economies that they are surviving in?
Well, that's the nature of projections. At the end of the day, they're unpredictable. There's always a risk that it can go sideways. There's also an upward that it might go even better. You see, but at the end of the day, it's a projection, but it has to make sense. When you do financial projections, those that are from finance world, they know that there are certain things that we look for when it's a financial projection. Have you considered, like Brad said, your cost structure, for example, is it realistic? You may even probably bring in a competitor or something, some service provider who is closer to what you are trying to do. Where you can say, look, I've looked at their finances, which are public in that case, maybe. This is what they are making. And if I were to sign in 1,000, this is what I'm likely to make. But obviously, it's up to the investor to probe deeper and say, in the COVID, post-COVID, or with COVID era, does this make sense? Actually, I'm being questioned that now when I'm talking about student accommodation. Investors are starting to say, what's your post-COVID or your COVID strategy? Because you are saying you want to build student accommodation, and are the students going to come in the COVID era? Understand? So I have to start to think around that and tell the investor and convince them that I still need the funding, because students will still come in the COVID era. With time, I would have probably even explained to say, this is actually what the strategy I've given them there. So financial projections by their nature are unpredictable, but it has to make sense. There are certain tools in financial projection and financial analysis that your investor will look at. They also look at your environmental impact. I mean, the environment within which you're operating, does it actually make sense? And I think at the end of the day, maybe the strength is more on the actual idea itself or the product itself, that probably the investor will say, I'll go with you, with the caveat that maybe these finances will work or they may not work.
All right, our time has run out, but I've got two questions that I really want you to address. And I've got three people who have asked around IP, but I'll read one, which I feel that will encompass all the aspects. That when pitching, how does an entrepreneur strike a balance between facing the risk of disclosing too much information at the risk of opening up too much of your proprietary intellectual capital to the potential investor who might not? So I think that covers the three questions around stealing the idea, right? Mm. How do you protect?
I think that's a common fear that you have, because you put so much effort and work and the brilliance of my idea. I don't want someone coming and stealing it. It's a hard question. We don't have enough time to get into a lot of this, but because a lot of it depends on the legal framework in your own country. So it differs from country to country. Some of them are very strict, some of them are very loose. But on the whole, I would say, again, if you wanted to be very formal, for example, I think when we bring in people to judges and investors to pitch, we ask them to sign a paper saying, that they will not steal ideas or whatever else. And so that's one sort of quasi way to look at it. But the other thing is that people think that people will steal ideas very quickly, and some do, but don't ever underestimate. Remember that it's not just your idea, but it's your passion, your all of the things that go into a business. You can't just replicate it because I steal your idea. I still would have to go through all of the hard work of, understanding the customer base, etc. So it's a real issue. There's no question about it. But that's why you have to move fast. You would have to be the judge of what you hold back and because I want to attract, but if I hold back too much, obviously that's not going to be as attractive a value proposition. But I have to, at the same time, and sometimes we just say, well, that's, a little proprietary right now for me to share the details of that, financing method or whatever. I don't know, John, what do you think? It's a tough issue.
I think at the end of the day, really it's the environment that you are operating in. NDAs are signed, non-disclosure agreements can be signed. But again, it depends, in most of African countries, the legal system is not very strong. So we've had experiences. It's a very big concern. We've had experiences personally and with partners where ideas were pitched, and sometimes to banks, sometimes to competitions. We've had maybe a cell phone network, for example, is calling for ideas, and then they tell you that, no, we don't think it works. Then a few months later, you actually find an idea that is very similar to that, but it's very difficult because then you don't have a legal recourse. So it depends who we are also dealing with. In more structured economies, it's easier. People respect NDAs, but I'm also sure that there's still maybe elements of it that can be stolen. So you strike a balance, really. I also wanted to say maybe on this one in closing that sometimes, guys, we actually don't need funding we maybe we'll go to some investors, and after presenting and everything, you actually realize that you actually don't need funding. You needed probably to do a tweaking on your business itself, and you start to bring in more funds itself organically, instead of actually going to the other people to bring you money. So it's a balance. Do you tell them everything at the risk of losing or somebody using your idea? Or again, like I'm saying, some ideas, some businesses are already successful. Some businesses, you can just make a few changes, and from there you have you probably organically grow. So I included a few other things there. Yes, yeah.
Okay, great. We want to end in the next 2 minutes, and I just couldn't have closed without talking about just answering to this last one, which is all about how do I, present the value of the, or what's the best way to value the business that I'm pitching? Is it just about actual assets, or could you also add values of your sweat equity and goodwill? So, maybe you could address the value of the business, or is it elements of sweat equity and goodwill? How do you value that? And that will be our last question. Thank you so much to everyone and all the wonderful messages on how this has helped. And that's all we aim for. So maybe I could just pitch that last one to you, and we close the session.
Yeah.
John,
okay,
you want to
again, it depends what kind of pitching are you doing. Some investors may want to see what have you put on the table, what will they call skin on the table of yours. And so it's maybe the assets and others, but I think the investor really wants to know, is the business, is the company going to actually make money? Obviously, it might be of interest to the investor to know what other assets you have, because if you're asking for 500,000, what best assets do you have to grow on that 500,000? Now, you're not going to use the 500,000 to do foundational issues that are not going to help them get their man quicker. So yes, the valuing of your, I think they call it sweat equity. It's also important, but again, how do you value that? Maybe it's an agreement that you can have with the investor.
Yeah, I would just add that there are so many ways to, as an investor, to value the business. So, for example, I might listen to you pitching your business, and I'm thinking about what's the risk factor for me. On the other hand, I might be looking at, oh, this has a lot of upside, a lot of really opportunity. Or I might be looking at you and saying, wow, you've got a very strong team there. That's of high value to me. Or I might be looking at you and say, you've got 15 years of experience in here and you're coming up with this idea. That has a lot of value. And I often find that people, when they're pitching, don't really use the assets they have. I mean, if I have a piece of land, a building, if I have 10 years experience in something, that's huge value. And I've gone through almost a whole year sometimes before I learned that, oh, the person has already run this business for 10 years. They have a real track record to go on. So it's so many different things that people are going to value. But at the end of the day, it really does come down. Do you have a good idea? Do you have a passion? Do you have a good financial model? Is this a reasonable risk for me to take? And are you going to make a good partner? I mean, that's really, at the end of the day, what it is. So even though I have 5 minutes to pitch, if it's going to be successful, we're going to have a lot of conversations before we really move to the final investment thing. Yeah, this is just getting you in the door, preparing you to get in the door and succeed, where 95% of the people won't even get in the door.
Great. Wow, I wish we had more time, but thank you to our speakers today. Thank you very much, all the way from Boston, Prof. Googins, and all the way from the Kingdom of Eswatini, John. Thank you so much for coming through. And I want to thank all our participants from all over Africa and the world for joining us today. And I think the last question is, I happen to have lost my flash disk drive. How do I save myself. And I say, like what John and Prof. Googins said, if the passion is there, if the commitment is there, if the discipline is there, if the idea is good, know your story, carry it in your heart. Just pick up and share your story as passionately and as honestly as you can. And trust me, I think the best pitches have come from the heart. So I want to thank you once again for joining us. Please sign up for our programs. Like I said, in the other countries, you can go on all our social media platforms. If you are in Eswatini, please speak to Sandile. He's waiting to talk to you at the Amadi University. Rwanda, please speak to Benjamin. He's ready to talk to you. Mekadela in Ethiopia, and in Ghana, Andrews, in Egypt, Farida, and South Africa, Unene is ready to speak to you with the international certificate. We are working with entrepreneurs that are willing to build their vision at idea stage, at startup stage, at growth stage. We are willing to accept entrepreneurs with any qualification. We've created programs that accommodate us to build entrepreneurs with impact. Please sign up for the pitch event, meet real investors in the next 2 weeks. You'll get an email, sign up and participate in the pitch event where you actually get to apply what all our speakers have. Nate, building a business model. You've been taught how the criteria of investors, and today we've spoken about how to pitch. So see you in 2 weeks, and hopefully you're pitching to investors and build that vision and join the E4Impact family. Thank you. Please stay safe and have a very good afternoon, very good night, and a very good day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, brother. Nice meeting you, John.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Prof. Thank you so much. Nice meeting you too. Thank you. All right. Bye, guys. Thank you for coming.
Bye-bye. Please stay safe.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.